voice doesn't give you money. It brings you the problems of Nigeria for you to dissect, for you to take it in. And some of you get depressed, some of you get informed. But if you want to talk money, there is a voice that you would love to hear. That voice is a bearded voice of Ogiba. Good morning, Ogiba.
Good morning, Kayode. Let me call your full name Olua Kayode.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So that people won't mistake me for Kayode if I am.
I'm telling you, man. So, today we weren't really satisfied, with how we touched, or should I say, addressed the topic last
Or
week.
let's say there were more demands.
Yeah, there are more demands for us to,
a review.
yeah,
The review
exactly. And so we're still going back into it, how to raise money in Nigeria as a startup. I'm just reflecting on what you said earlier on, like Nigerian youths, right? Would rather go the fast route.
Fast money,
Exactly. So it somewhat aligns with this in regards to correcting them, or rather showing them a path, right? A lot of people start businesses with they see other people doing businesses and they feel, it's so easy. I can do it. Just get in there. Once I do this and I do that, they think it's as easy as it gets. But one of the biggest problems is actually raising funds. You understand? So hopefully our guest today will help us shed more light on this. And then we have Kenneth Wagu, an investment enthusiast.
Wow.
Welcome, Kenneth.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's good to have you on the show today. I've actually been trying to get him on as well. He's done a couple of things with us, so it's good to have you here, Kenneth.
But his title got me feeling less of a person.
You, eh?
Yeah, I'm a movie enthusiast. He's an investment enthusiast.
Yes.
For you to be an investment enthusiast, then you must have money.
Yeah, he has money now. Can't you see?
How much does it take to watch movies? Man, I envy you.
Yeah. That's exactly where it is. Kenneth, good to have you here. So we'll go straight into it, right? Why funding is a challenge in Nigeria, right? So a lot of people really start businesses and they don't really know how to raise funds. You understand? So why is it so difficult, really, for Nigerians to actually raise funds?
Okay, so there's the risk appetite.
Okay.
The climate, people don't really don't really take as much risk as they should.
Okay.
It's not really like a mature market like maybe the US, where investors are used to seeing success stories from maybe Apple's first investors or Facebook's first investors.
Yeah, a lot of reference points, right?
Yes. So there's an apathy to taking risks, and also there's lack of local support as well. So most of the investments that we've even seen kind of become success stories have been foreign investments. So because those foreign investors are more attuned to taking risks with startups and things like that. So that's why I think there's just the risk factor is the major thing.
Also, to add to that, I also think a lot of people don't even do their research as much and prep themselves well enough, right, to actually command, the money you want, right? So imagine you're starting a business and you're trying to raise funds. You don't have a proper business plan. Do you understand? So you're going to meet somebody, I need money, I want to do this business. Yeah, okay, so there's no business plan. So I think that's also, I just felt I needed to add that, right? So we've identified a gap, right, in trying to raise funds, one of the problems or difficulties. So let's switch into solutions. So with the points you gave in regards to the risk appetite, really, how do we think Nigerians can solve, or startups in Nigeria can actually tackle that, really?
Okay.
So a solution, more like.
So actually going to what you said, and that's very true. For you to be able to convince an investor, I think they have to see that you have all your act together.
Yeah.
Maybe your decks together, your prototypes are working. You already have done sufficient market research, or you're already even in the market. So to be able to get funding, you have to make sure that all your I's are dotted, your T's are crossed. You know what market you're going to. You've done the adequate research, and you're able to really have like projections for what your earnings or revenue will be, and you really have to have a grasp on it. It also sometimes is about the entrepreneur themselves, because the idea might be great, but if the entrepreneur is not given that passion or doesn't have that those qualities, they might not get the funding. Sometimes people get funding based on just who they are. For instance, let's take it all the way to the top with someone like Elon Musk. Elon Musk doesn't really have to say too much, doesn't have to have a product, but because of his pedigree, he's able to get funding. So you have to build up your pedigree. You have to be able to have that kind of discipline as an entrepreneur, so that investors can already have that faith in you.
I like that point you added just now, right? So you can have a great idea, proper documentation, well set up, do you understand, for the business, but you are not the right what's the word, I want to quote you, sorry, business manager, right? Is that the word you used?
Yes.
So in that situation, what do you advise the person to do? So, because I actually know someone that can relate. I know someone that can relate to what you said. Right? The person wasn't even the best pitcher. Couldn't really express himself more, but he had the idea in his head and everything. So, in that situation, what would you advise this person seeking funding to do? When I'm not the best pitcher. I don't have the wits to sell this business for us to get money. But I have the idea. What would you advise that person to do at that moment?
Okay, so it's about reaching out and building a team. So I think almost every business, even at the onset, still has people that you can kind of get together with that might see your vision with you. So if that's possible, if you're able to really reach out, I think that would be the best thing. If you can, I think there's also entrepreneurship networks available. You can always go to like those sort of seminars. You can meet someone who will be able to who is maybe more eloquent than you, or maybe more experienced in meeting up with investors. So that would be very good. If you but also you can also kind of, there's ways to motivate yourself. After all, startups, getting your startup to the finish line, or getting your idea kind of into products, it's going to be very, very it's going to be your own accomplishment. You're going to do greater good for the society. So
okay, so if I'm taking what you said, right, is either you network, or you meet somebody that can do it on behalf of you.
Yes.
I think that's a smart move. Really, Coyote. We're teaching you how to raise money. You're saying you need to be.
You do it on my behalf.
So you just stress that point. In regards to sources of how, if you can't pitch yourself, I have a great idea. The smartest thing to do will probably be get someone else to do it on behalf of you, or pay, I guess. I think that's a smart move, though.
And just for emphasis, getting someone else doesn't mean you do it the way everybody does it, which is get a pretty lady.
Yes.
That's not the only someone else that exists.
That's like number one, marketing 101. So going back into it, with what you said, it's somewhat a way to attract funds, really. Well, I mean, I believe that's just one of. But how would you advise a startup to set itself up to attract funding?
Okay, so now with I would say publicity. Publicity is one of the most important ways to get your name out there. I mean, if you're an investor and you're looking to invest in maybe a sustainable company or an eco-friendly company or an electric car company, the first one that you would be drawn to is the one that you've possibly seen something about on the internet, or maybe you've heard them on the radio. So you have to, and publicity nowadays with social media is very easy. There's innovative ways to do it. There's guerrilla marketing. You don't really have to have a big budget. You don't have to go.
You just need a phone, right? And
Yes.
download the app or whatever.
Yes, there's user-generated content as well. So I think the brands that are able to really get funds, attract, are ones that are able to put themselves out there. Even if you're not putting yourself out there to the general public, I think investors still have particular places that they do go to see these sort of companies. So, for instance, in Silicon, if you're trying to get funding in America for your tech companies, even Nigerian companies, they tend to go to Silicon Valley. There was a time our Vice President, Professor Yemi Oshibanjo, went to Silicon Valley. So some of those companies that he took along with him had more cachet in the eyes of the investors there, because I mean, you're seeing a vice president and so those companies did well to get in those circles from Nigeria so it's all about networking. Is very important. It's who you know most of the time, because sometimes if you think about Facebook, if you think about Google, it was their professors. Google was their actual professor that signed the first check for Google. So that's because they were able to go and kind of
pitch.
Yes, pitch. They were able to take it to. So you need to take it out of. So because there's a lot of geniuses, but their ideas are just in their rooms.
Hidden,
And funny enough, some of those businesses, they started in garages, but they were still able to go out. So I think you need to be able to launch yourself. If it's not on social media, then you need to attend those events where those kind of investors will be. And there's a dime a dozen. If you even just Google now tech event Lagos, I wouldn't be surprised in the next week.
You see a whole lot.
So go network and just get yourself out there as soon as possible.
So with what you've said now, does it mean there really isn't anything like a self-made millionaire?
Well, self-made is a very, very it's very. In some sense, you can say self-made in the sense that the person comes up with the idea and is the driving force. But there's a lot of moving parts. I don't think there's any company that. Yes, you can't.
Even the Steve Jobs had people they worked with.
Yes. Steve Jobs didn't even do the code or anything.
He was even got funding from his dad or someone else.
And again, you're talking about. Before your professor or anybody close to you can sign you on, first of all, if you say reach out to people that can help you, you're most likely talking about people that have a wider network, people that will probably have more money and probably more intelligent than you. What about the risk of losing your idea? Somebody taking you. What was that word again?
Intellectual property. Yeah.
What about that?
Okay, that's actually one of the most important things that actually happens, because you find out. So I think if you have to maybe start with getting an IP lawyer. Wow. I know that it seems and that's one of the things about funding, because you don't want to lose too much equity at the beginning, because that's what happens, especially with the Nigerian market, because these foreign investors, sometimes they know that we're not really getting it locally, so they give maybe some draconian conditions. They take a lot of equity early on, even pre-seed. So when you're exiting for $100 million, $200 million, the person might be seeing maybe even 5 or 10 of it, because they've already had to give out a lot of equity. So I think it would be very smart to get an IP lawyer at the beginning. Make sure that you've patented your idea. If it's really that unique, have everything ironclad, so that at least you can be able to fight it in the courts if it ever does get to that. But if you're ever going to those sort of meetings, you can actually sign NDAs. But that's also about being confident as a startup, and that's really where some investors are sharks. I mean, you see that show on TV, Shark Tank or Dragon's Den. They are already trying to intimidate you as you come in, and that's like a tactic for them to get as much, because they know that you're the one that needs it. So, but yes, you need to at least try to get lawyers to, yeah, maybe a lawyer, even if it's expensive, but I think it's worth it. Get a lawyer to make sure that it's ironclad, that your idea doesn't just get perforated
I'm
or
actually going to speak to a
duplicated.
lawyer about this on one of my other shows, and I think like from what you said, because I've seen a lot of or rather heard of a lot of clauses in some contracts, right, that actually prevent people from the team, working in that space over a certain period of years. So maybe if you are working on Kayarina in the studio, right, and in your clause there'll be like you can't work with any radio station or any public speaking capacity for over 2-3 years. So definitely that will set you aback. And obviously, if you're someone looking to steal the idea, it will be discouraging, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So that I get what you mean. That place in definitely. So brand positioning definitely helps with attracting funds, and also setting up yourself, networking, and having the right team, right?
Yes.
Definitely. Thanks for that. Then, so if we've identified that, so what are the mistakes that people make? Do you understand? When trying to raise funds, or rather startups make when trying to raise funds?
Okay, the first mistake is maybe raising funds too early. Because
is anything like that?
Yes, and I think that's one of the problems that I think the Nigerian startup scene faced, because when there was a lot of money pouring in, I think the figures went down. I'm not sure of the exact figures, but I think as of year 2022, there was a real spike.
Yeah, there was.
And a lot of them shut down, actually. Yes, because of corporate governance. I think the foreign investors then saw that they would invest this money, and because of our exchange rate, so maybe a $1 million investment to a Silicon Valley venture capital firm is nothing to them.
Yeah.
But when you exchange it into Naira, it's a very huge sum. So yes, so they saw that a lot of these investors were not using the money the right way, and that's because so sometimes you invest way too early, or rather you raise money way too early when you don't need it. So for instance, when you should be bootstrapping, when maybe your office should be in your kind of living
garage
room.
Let's go back to the garage, right?
Your garage, you're raising money and you then go get a big office in Awolowo Road, and because you see the money in your account, you're hiring people maybe you don't need to hire, you're doing advertising you don't need to do, and so when you burn through that cash and you now still need to scale, those investors are asking, okay, where are the customers? Have we been able to reach any targets by now? And they might not be part of the Series A or Series B. So investing raising funds too early is one of the things when you don't need to raise funds.
So I guess so you need to at the beginning you need to be focused on grinding and working towards the milestones, right? Then when the milestones come, you can now inject or seek for funds.
Yes, I think even globally, this was a trend globally. Investors were putting a lot of money just based on future projections. The company didn't even have to be making profits when they would get investments. I know Uber, for instance, had maybe gotten $300 million, $400 million, and they were not making a profit. You would be very surprised. A lot of these household name companies were not even making profit.
Like LinkedIn.
Yes. So, but what happened is that investors started to change. Even with AI, for instance, you see that OpenAI, they are raising $40 billion. But when DeepSeek came out, and DeepSeek built the same model with $6 million, so investors are like, wow, if they can build this with $6 million, why are you asking me for $40 billion?
Exactly.
So it's also about getting businesses need to be able to be sure that there's actually a market, because sometimes some startups think there's a market, but the market might not even be sustainable. It might look cool. It might have like
attractive.
Yes, it might have a few people there. That's maybe it might be maybe for only celebs, but is it a mass market product? So you've raised money, but they don't actually have the numbers to actually sustain it. They don't have that profit, So that's the thing.
And going back to what you just said, I've noticed that as well. So when a lot of companies are doing projections, they tend to use a lot of bogus numbers, right? Okay, in the next 5 years we should be earning what, a couple billions, yeah, but you haven't even you hit your tens of millions rather. You haven't hit that mark, but projections, are way bogus, right? Is that really advisable, or startups should tend to be more realistic with those numbers?
Yes, I mean they have to be realistic with the numbers in terms of from an ethical point of view. Because I mean, projecting a market that doesn't exist it's not it kind of hampers the whole ecosystem. Because these foreign investors or even local investors, they also have communications with themselves. They know, okay, this maybe they're saying it's self-driving cars, or maybe it's about mobility. That, for instance, when Uber came to Nigeria, I'm sure that when they were projecting the amount of business that they will be doing, I'm sure that a lot of people didn't think it was possible.
Yeah, to be this much.
Yes. So sometimes those numbers can be real if the adequate research has been done. But sometimes, numbers are just projected just so that those funds can be secured.
So definitely, I mean, for all you startups out there, you need to do your research. Right? From what Kenneth has actually told us, I think going back from the top, you need to do your onions well, set yourself up well, build the proper team, do proper research, and be very critical of when to actually go out and raise funds. I think those are very key. And obviously the mistakes. Don't go and buy a G-Wagon when the business has not, set itself up well for that. But I want to make it, let's go towards the light-headed, light point of view. So there was something Kayode mentioned last week, right? We identified the fact that a lot of people in the West are actually financially literate, right, because of the way they live their lives. And we also stress the fact that I also added to that rather that I feel the reason why they're like that is because they live by the month. They pay their rent by the end of the month. They pay everything, but they live by the month. And I was like, would that also have the same effect with Nigeria? If we were living by the month in Nigeria, would it make us buckle up financially, or would it buckle up or make us more financially stable and smart rather? That's I know it's off topic, but I just wanted to bring us back into it. What's your opinion about that, really?
Okay, yes, I mean that makes a lot of sense. I think it would give us some. It would also help in a way. It would give us some space to, especially things like maybe rent, which is yearly. That's the prevalence kind of rates that landlords charge yearly. So I think, but per month will give us more fluidity in the way we plan as well. Maybe you might say, you know what, this month I want to live on the mainland, and in the next 2 months I want to live on the island. You will be able to be more like
organized, right? Well, I like what you said, though, but you know what? I still prefer the fire. Because if it's by month and you lose your job, you're finished now. You're living on the streets overnight. So
we need to bring it home.
Oh man, it's been
per second.
Per second. So it's been nice having you, Kenneth. Thank you very much for sharing, sharing insights, and I think we've, actually pinpointed the factors behind trying to raise funds in Nigeria as a startup, and we thank you for this insightful conversation.
Thank you very much.
We look forward to speaking on. So Kayode, thank you for having us as well. Please catch up with us on Spotify, and also subscribe to our YouTube channel. We have a lot of content, financial content for you to learn and generally structure yourself financially. So subscribe to our YouTube channel, and we look forward to speaking to you all next week. Thank you. Bye.